actually not targeted at the right market. The price difference between a netbook and a CULV processor, CULV powered ultra portable is, let's say, 250 euros versus 500 euros. So it's very, you know, it's going to be incredibly difficult, and this is what's being confirmed right now in the market, is that, you know, you can't really convince consumers to go, you know, to pay twice as much for this, you know, the same type of, you know, product category, which is, you know, 10 or 11 or maybe 12 inch. So they would get a bit more screen and a bit more power, but for twice as much money. So when you take the price performance ratio, it's actually not a very interesting proposition for consumers. However, we do believe, and this is where we think the growth will be coming from, you know, this would be really the first time that again, affordable ultra portables could be available to businesses. I mean, I didn't present it this time around, but again, 90-95% of netbooks end up in the consumer space. So only 5 to 10% ends up in the business space. Businesses, SMBs, and corporates definitely are not using netbooks at the moment. However, ultra portability is very important for business travelers. However, it has to have more power and, of course, a bigger screen, and the longer battery life is definitely very critical. Add that to a low price device, and, you know, once you have ultra portables available for 500 euros instead of 1,500 euros as historically, I think all of a sudden you've got actually a very interesting proposition for the business market. However, due to the crisis, the business market is actually not buying anything at the moment. So it's you know, shipments are declining by, you know, 20-30% each quarter because of the crisis, because budgets are actually very tight and constrained. However, we do think that SMBs in particular are going to start renewing their laptops in 2010, and really particularly from the second half of 2010. So I would argue that would be the time when CULV and Neo-type products will actually take off, driven by demand not from consumers but from SMBs. There has been some obviously discussions around the Smartbooks and obviously investigating this market. This is really a quite peculiar product, somewhere between a smartphone and a netbook. So looking at some of the initial or planned specifications, this is of course supposed to be smaller than a netbook. So right now these products are supposed to be around 7 inch, primarily ARM-based systems with you know, maybe 512 megabyte of RAM, SSD for storage, and of course they are supposed to be Linux-based systems. So again, depending on how some of these products will materialize once they reach the market, there are of course certainly some of the advantages to Smartbooks, or whatever we want to call them, and of course the fact that they use SSD and some of the new developments that are going into instant on functionality. That's certainly one of the key elements which will be very I think popular among consumers, along with the long battery life and the lower price. However, I think what's going to be the key challenge is really how these devices are positioned, because most people, you know, they will definitely have a phone or a smartphone, and you know, they will have a netbook or an ultra portable or some sort of notebook. So I think it will be incredibly challenging to convince consumers that they're actually going to need a third device in the middle. And you know, we've talked about how netbooks and the functionality that netbooks are providing. The market has shifted from the 7-inch device to the 10-inch device literally in less than 12 months. So if you want to offer a device which is used for computing, then of course 7-inch might be actually too small. Many people find even with the 10-inch the keyboard too cramped, or the screen too small. So of course, if it's positioned closer to a computer, it's going to come up against these arguments. If it's positioned more closer to smartphones, then of course all of a sudden this thing is actually too big, and smartphones do have to fit your pocket. So. But again, it's a lot to depend on the actual product. Of course, new interfaces and the whole touch capability, again, it can be actually a very interesting proposition. However, with touch, people have to be very careful, because there are certain technologies how to do that. There is the cheap one, which may not work too well, or there is the kind of route that HP has taken with the TouchSmart, but that would make potentially the device more expensive. So there's going to be a lot of different considerations to have when making a product and positioning this product. There is actually a very strong chance that these products might fall into an MID category, where it will be really hard to position them and really hard to sell them, because they are kind of like an in-between product. But again, it's also possible that they might evolve one way or another, merge with Netbooks, for example, and have the two categories, really incorporate all those benefits that this Smartbook category is trying to bring to the market at the moment. So certainly the market looks to be actually very interesting going forward. Again, in 2009 we've seen this major explosion in the market, and 2010 the Netbook market will continue to grow, but of course it will bring a new set of challenges. As we've talked about it all day, there will be a lot of different portable PCs, and even within portable PCs, a lot of different ultra portable models. So one of the key challenges for vendors will be, or OEMs in particular, is to how to manage the different product categories, how to manage their portfolio, and how to drive profitable growth. As I mentioned, particularly with regards to Smartbooks, the positioning in particular is going to be really key, and the pricing, of course, how you price all the different systems, because once you've got Smartbooks, or once you've got Netbooks, or once you've got a thin and light ultra portable for 500 euros, again, it's going to be very difficult for a Lenovo or a Fujitsu to convince the customer why they have to pay 1,500 euros, 3 times more, for an ultra portable with Core Studio processor. So all of a sudden, the rules of the game in the ultra portable market are really changing. That was again a market which OEMs haven't touched before, simply because they were earning quite a good margin on it. But the emergence of netbooks have really sort of shaken the market in this sense, and now basically all the OEMs have to rethink their ultra portable offering, starting from Smartbooks and all the way up to very high-end ultra portables. As mentioned with regards to the telcos, many of them have really burned themselves by not really understanding the market and not planning properly. So in 2010, they will need to redefine the model, and obviously OEMs have to also find a sort of a balanced go-to-market where they address the retail channel, the tackle channel, and of course the online channel, which is also growing quite fast. We've also talked about how the competitive environment has been disrupted, particularly by Samsung, but of course Asus was really the first one disrupting the market. And so volatility in the netbook market will continue, and of course everyone is looking out as to who is going to provide the next big idea, whether an Apple tablet type device would work, or whether Nokia could bring something to the market. A big question mark whether Samsung's growth is actually sustainable in the long term. And of course, we know that HP is actually also going to push much harder in the netbook market going forward to, as I mentioned, regain share from Acer. So there's going to be still a lot of volatility and a lot of competition in the market going forward. Of course, all this competition and all these plethora of products, as I mentioned in the beginning, as in 2009, there's been huge pricing pressure. This pricing pressure will definitely continue, and certainly as the price erosion continues, it will put a lot of pressure on margins as well. So certainly the industry will face a big challenge in terms of how to keep this a profitable business. And again, just to summarize, so in 2008, netbooks have really taken the market by storm. Asus in particular did not expect such a huge growth, and in 2009 the market has really taken off, and we've seen absolutely tremendous growth, particularly coming from Western Europe. We talked about how the competitive environment was shaken, and this will certainly continue going forward. Finally, what we've also talked about for a very long time, the IT and telco convergence has happened. The two industries have been looking at each other for a very long time. They didn't quite know how to work together, and netbooks have really provided the answer to that dilemma. And so for the first time, this is basically a reality, the IT and telco convergence. As there will be more and more products in the market offering different usage models across different price points, there's going to be a plethora of products out there of different product categories. But again, they basically they don't necessarily have to cannibalize one another, because users because due to the commoditization of the PC market, these products are incredibly available and affordable to customers, and consumers can have many products to basically to be used in different usage models. So we definitely do see this trend continue, that people will have multiple machines. But of course, again, whether we call them Smartbooks or maybe it's just yet another netbook subcategory, there's going to be challenges for the netbook market as well. Whether it's a bit of competition with other ultra portables, or consumers who actually want to upsell from netbooks, or indeed consumers who would want to have something even more portable and really instant on with long battery life. So there's going to be also challenges for the netbook market. And that's about it. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Yeah. Do you have any split between the different countries in Western Europe? Meaning, for 2009 full year, what is the expectation for netbook shipments for France, Germany, and UK?
Sure. Yeah. We have all the different countries. So I mean, basically because of size, the large countries of UK, France, and Germany are actually the largest also in terms of netbook shipment. As we've talked about, netbooks represent about 1/3 of consumer portables, and that's about pretty much true across most of the countries. Maybe Finland and Ireland have been lagging behind a bit in terms of adoption, where the share of netbooks is lower. We've seen very, very high adoption in portable in particular, where it has been driven by the Escolinha or Magellan deal. So the high potential is certainly in these markets like UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain as well. So also a lot of the countries where Acer is incredibly strong, like again Italy and Spain, where really the big push of Acer is happening.
So do you expect France to be weighting something like 12% of the market, or 10% maybe? Is that 1 million shipment for France?
I would need to double check the numbers. Because I'm responsible for 57, so I can't remember. But if you drop me an email, I can definitely check the number for you exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the Middle East?
Yeah.
What is the adoption in the Middle East for netbooks?
Okay, so actually in the Middle East, again, it's because many people are still getting their first notebooks In a way, of course, we know that Middle East, particularly because of the oil countries, is considered to be, more developed. But nevertheless, when it comes to, IT adoption in the consumer space in particular, it's actually still considered as emerging markets. So, I can go back to the slide which shows how small, the Middle East still is compared to Western Europe. So people still prefer to actually get a mainstream notebook. Of course, there have been a lot of push from, again, Acer, HP, and the rest. So there is some traction, but it's definitely not as much as in Western Europe.
Yes, I'm a little confused about the education market because you said that most netbooks were going to the home and the rest were going to business. Education also has two channels. There's large-scale channels, for instance, governments that buy 1.4 million X01 laptops or 800,000 Intel partner classmate laptops or whatever the number is because I don't have that number. I don't know if it's 800,000 or a million.
Okay, so basically I think that there are different things. So the problem is that, so first of all, particularly the government supported programs are lots of marketing, and many of them did not happen. So these are actual shipments, and if there was all of a sudden 500,000 units in Nigeria, we would notice. So the Nigerian analysts would call up and say, hey.
But I mean, today there's only two big players internationally. There's one laptop per child and Intel.
Yes and no. Again, we basically look at it differently because, and again, I have to, for example, go back to also definitions because, for us, education is when the school itself purchases the machine. However, with the Magellan project, which was based on Intel Classmate and shipped almost 500,000 units, the school didn't buy the machine. It was the children buying the machine. Whether they use it in the school or at home, that's a different question. But it was not the school, paying the money effectively. It was the students themselves. So for us, that's why it can show up in the consumer space.
And for instance, Dell, they're claiming between 50 and 100,000 sales of the Latitude 2100.
In the US, I think,
US,
but I don't know about that. I mean, I'm focusing on EMEA in particular.
They've launched it in Europe as well. I mean, the one I have, I bought in Belgium.
But for example, the thing is that when we talk about the education, we not just look at the EXO, which we've seen very small uptake in EMEA, or the Classmate, which has been used much more as a reference design, not only in education but also in white box retail. But we also look at vendors like ASUS, who have large shipments in the UK and Russia in particular, or Dell selling their Inspiron Mini 10 into schools in France. So the thing is, actually in Western Europe, what often happens is that the comment that we've heard, particularly with regards to France and Germany, is that they don't find netbooks ergonomic enough. So they rather spend another 50 or 100 euros to actually get the fully functioning notebook. We've seen some projects, again, particularly in the UK, but again, when we look at the overall market, still a lot of the money which government spends is actually going to desktops.
Hello, I'm Olivier Serres. I'm doing software for touchscreen devices, and you didn't speak about the new phenomenon which consists in integrating touchscreens in netbooks and to turn them into tablet PCs and one day to get rid of the physical keyboard. Have you studied this trend, or how do you see things going on?
Well, the thing is, it's again, I think Apple has done something really incredible with the iPhone, and people feel really comfortable with it. The real difference is really how people use, and I think many of you talked about that, how people use a telephone versus how people use a notebook or a netbook even. So I think it can probably be very interesting, but I wouldn't think that the market would shift to abandoning keyboard, because I think still many people wouldn't be comfortable with it. Again, there are some announcements about products, but nothing has really been actively happening yet in the market. So this could be something that is taken off in 2010. But again, I think what's going to be interesting to see is how this whole touchscreen technology is going to work out in terms of the pricing in particular, and which technology basically OEMs are going to be choosing. Because when we look at touchscreen on the desktop, there are basically two ways. You can either buy an e-top and for 500 euros, or buy something for 2,000 euros for HP, and obviously the technology that you're getting is entirely different. So once you talk about netbooks, you basically have to keep your price to 250 euros. What kind of touchscreen technology can you actually really put into that? It's I think a big question mark. Or are you going to try to sell high-end netbooks? Which, to be honest, it's when you take a Sony for 700 euros, it's probably an interesting machine, but it's still 700 euros. So I'm sure that again, many different technologies and will coexist, and there will potentially be traction, but it has to be cheap enough for the mainstream to actually really take off in a very explosive way.
Yeah, but I think that there is demand for touchscreen and multi-touch and all this stuff.
Yeah, and I think particularly since again Apple has done such a great job, I think that people are getting more and more familiar with this, because before that they haven't really experienced this these type of devices, and so that's why I think how the interface works is going to be key to the success.
Let me just add something to it. In terms of the form factor of the Netbook form factor, there are only two devices on the market so far that are offering you touchscreen capability right from the manufacturer. That's the EPC T91 that also came to the market now with a multi-touch interface that just got to the market like 4 weeks ago. And then there is the Gigabyte T1028. Gigabyte was actually the first one to introduce it after Vision invented. And Gigabyte has pretty much no market share in general in Europe.
Not in Europe,
And they're pretty okay in Asia. But I can tell you that Acer, Gigabyte, MSI, are bigger ones from ASUS will definitely get announced in the next 4 weeks. So, the more products are coming to the market, the more attention they will get.
And Fujitsu have one.
Of Fujitsu, well, I'm not sure if you can really call it a netbook. These are the 5.6-inch version that's already available on the market for quite a while. They've gotten expensive, like 1,500 euros or something like that. So there's definitely a different universe.
Can you say to us the price differences between the new you are expecting in the next year, between the non-touch and the touch models inside the different categories, Smartbooks and also Netbooks?
But that would be difficult to say. I mean, again, these products are just coming out in the market. I would assume that they will command the price difference. And basically, the question is, obviously, how much? But again, at this point, I can't tell you because I don't have figures yet. I will get these sales figures in January, so I don't know about the pricing.
Or question answered?
Well, if you have questions afterwards, you can always email me and I will try to answer you.
So yeah, finally, long day came to an end. Thank you so much, Esther, for having the final keynote. Thank all of you guys for being so patient and showing some stamina over here. It was like some 9 hours of netbook talk, so that's quite a lot. So at least you can realize what I'm doing every day now. Thank you so much, Mandriva, for making this happening over here, Vanessa and Melody. Again, I hope we can see each other next year, maybe at the same location. It was pretty cool over here. And right now, I think we deserve some cocktails, so I guess we can grab them upstairs. So thanks a lot.
Actually,